Here we go.
Okay.
Oh. Have you ever been rejected in a way that still stings?
Oh my God, let me count the ways. Are you kidding? 80 billion, jillion, trillion. Okay, so I think probably the first one I remember that still sizzles, it still burns, was I think when I was in, what was I, 5th grade maybe? And I had contracted polio. So I was paralyzed on one leg, and I wore a big, heavy steel brace, and I was never, ever, ever popular. I always was a loner as a kid, but that made it worse. So in my 5th grade class, this girl, before the teacher came into the class, this girl was really making fun of me. And I don't remember what she said. I think I blocked it out. But she was saying very cruel things about my being a cripple and all this stuff. And I remember saying to her, "You really hate me, don't you?" And she said, "Yes." Mm-hmm. Oh, just killed me. That was one of the most painful moments of my life. So that was one. Geez.
You don't have to go on. That's a
There are so many. But yeah.
I'm sorry for that. That is, yeah, that's not good.
Hey, Ellen and Julie, I have. And for 4 years of high school, I got bullied and rejected every day, physically, emotionally, all kinds of taunts, and it still hurts to this day. I've never been to a high school reunion, and I never will go.
How about you? How would you answer that question?
In alignment of like those core things, like I remember even to this day, and luckily, I mean, not luckily, but it ended up turning out okay. I had a teacher who I really loved as a teacher. I went to a parochial school, mm-hmm. and I was a cheerleader, and he was a coach. And I don't remember if we had a cheerleading mom, like, or some, woman who, I don't remember. Anyways, we're at a game, and he said something like, get your big self out of the way. He said something like that, like something,
Oh, God.
And
stab you in the heart.
Yeah. And like that was something like I never forgot. And it was from somebody who was like a teacher, like, and someone I liked as a teacher. So here's the crazy thing. Years later, I would say like 30 or more years later, he doesn't live in LA anymore. I forget where he lives. And he came back and would do these kind of like little reunions with the grade school that I went to. And I feel like, or he did this on Facebook. I don't remember, but he apologized.
Really?
Like he had remembered it.
Wow.
And said something like, I'm sorry, and it's so weird because it's because of those like kind of traumatic things. Like it's hard to remember like when those things happen, like when the apology happened exactly. Because now I'm like, well, maybe he apologized shortly after that. He might have done that actually, now that I think about it, because he knew he was wrong. He knew that it was hurtful. He knew. But anyways, yeah. So that's what I think I would have. I would say was to answer that question.
Yeah. Isn't it sad, I guess, and interesting that in both circumstances, the rejections you and I experienced were full of shame.
Yeah.
Terrible shame. And that's the kind of stuff that implants in your head so that you think you should be ashamed of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And God, man, it takes so much effort and so much work to try to undo that, especially when that stuff happens young. I like to think about it as, our brains when we're young are like wet cement. And when something heavy tracks into that wet cement, and then the wet cement dries, you've got this heavy, ugly footprint deep inside your mind.
Yeah.
And, it's dried solid. There it is. And so, it's not necessarily that we can just take our jackhammer and throw it out, right? Can't do that. But we do have to have compassion for ourselves.
Yeah.
That when that young girl, that beautiful Ellen, that wonderful spirited girl, cheerleader even, was hurt so badly, man, you think, she didn't deserve that. No friggin' way did she deserve that. He didn't see her for the beauty, for the wonderfulness that she was. And how sad that is for that little girl, right? Yeah.
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 Yeah. And then I think too, like probably like in the things that we shared, how that it didn't just stop there, right?
No.
It didn't just stop there. So then
No.
you have that imprint, right? And then
Yes.
it just keeps getting like deeper and deeper,
That's
and
right.
how we have
Carved
to
deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and how we have to keep like working through that,
We sure do.
Yeah.
We sure do.
Yeah. I'm ready
this
for
is
my
your
last question.
question. Done.
Guys, this is Reggie Lee, and my open-ended question is, how do you approach making difficult decisions in your life? And I think at this time in my life, I can pretty much summarize that with 2 words, and that's with authenticity. I can say for sure that I haven't always been that way, especially coming from the Philippines, trying to acclimate here in the United States, being the son of immigrant parents. We were always kind of taught to not rock the boat. So I kind of always made decisions based on that and based on making other people happy. And at some point in my life, I realized that really wasn't serving me and really wasn't serving anyone else that I was in communication with about that particular decision, or the people that were involved in my life with that particular decision. So with a lot of work, we've gotten to this. And I think for me, I always wake up with a lot of stuff in my head, in my heart, in my soul. And the only thing that gets me going and getting me back to my true self is a meditation. I don't leave home without it. And it served me really well. So I'm proud to say that I'm starting to value myself more and value what I have to say more and value who I am more. And the more authentic I get, I realize the decisions that I make, whether difficult or easy, have always been ones that help me to grow into the human being that I want to become. So that is my answer to that question, but I will leave you with this. If there's anyone ever involved in that decision making, and even if I make it authentically and start to value myself, let me say it that way, and value myself in my decision making, I think it's really important to convey that with kindness and with compassion, and always, always, always lead with that. But for me right now, I make all my difficult decisions authentically and by valuing myself.
So in making a decision, a hard decision, I now try to step back from it and see it as a whole picture, as opposed to just this thing. Like I have to decide what to do and go, okay, so if I decide to do this, how can that look? what are the things and the benefits that I'll get from it? What are the things that will be easy and light about it and fun?
Is that like a pros and cons?
Yeah, it is
list?
like a pros and cons, but it's also I don't know how else to explain it. It's like a pros and cons, but it's also a release of control. It's a lot of like what we were talking about. It's like it's going to be like this. I know it's going to be like this. Or I go, but it also could be like this.
Yeah.
Right? It could also be like this, and more than likely it's going to be like this.
Oh,
So can you breathe through it? Can you relax? Can you let go of the control of, oh, but what if it doesn't? What if it's this and this and this and this? Because it's usually not like this and this and this. So those are the big decisions. And then if it involves somebody else, that's the other thing too. Like then I go, like my partner, I go, you know, sorry, I'm getting emotional about it. It's like I go, well, what's important? You know, what's important? You know,
yeah. That's right.
that's the bigger,
That's
the
the
bigger
vision,
thing,
isn't
right?
it?
The vision is bigger, you
That's
know, and that's where
right.
I have to stand back and go, well, what's the bigger thing? What can you let go of? Usually this is what it is. It's what can I let go of? Because it is about my control, my anxiety, or whatever. That really isn't about me. And it's easier to just, you know, turn towards.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, I want to thank you for being so vulnerable,
Oh, yeah.
for allowing your tears here, because big decisions are like that. And you're really getting to the heart of how to love. That so many times our decisions, you know, the biggest ones have to do with, well, if I do this, this is probably a more loving thing to do. But then there's self-love, but then there's other love and which love. And, you know, it can get so confusing. But, you know, I love your answer because that's stepping back and realizing that your anxiety is only that. It's only anxiety. That's all it is. It's like little ants crawling around on the floor, right?
It's a good visual. Yeah.
Yeah. And there they are, those little ants, and they're crawling around, and usually they, you know, find a place to go when they go. But stepping back, you know, to see the beauty of the plants that are growing around them, the earth that, you know, is supporting them, the trees that are feeding them, the crumbs on my picnic blanket that are feeding them, but that's okay. Stepping back and seeing the bigger picture over time, over space. I think you've really, you know, hit the nail on the head in terms of that's what to do when you're anxious. You know, that's what to do when you don't know what to do. And you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And anxiety is coloring everything kind of deep, dark purple over here and worrisome and gray. But over here, there's some light. And, what would that light be like? What would it be like to live in that light, especially with your partner? And that's such a beautiful vision. Can I reach that? Who knows? But why not try? Right?
I love that. Thanks for that visual
Hands
of
on the
light.
picnic blanket.
No, that, and also because that's something that I can like. I love things that I can grasp. You know, like I go, oh yeah, like that can make one anxious, right? But I love the light. You know, where can I live in the light?
I love it too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yay.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
You are welcome.